Hi there and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be showing you how I turned this area of our front garden into this rather nice looking DIY driveway. This was a really great project. We used gravel grids to achieve this look, and I have to say I was absolutely delighted with these things. They were so easy to use. I honestly believe anybody with even basic DIY skills could do this project. So without further ado, let's get into it. And you can see the first thing that I had to do here was remove the bushes in the front garden. This was quite simple. I just used a hedge trimmer and a handsaw. The only real problem was getting the roots out. These were fuchsia bushes that have been here for probably a couple of decades, and they were an absolute nightmare to get these roots out. But you can see I'm just using the pickaxe, and it was a case of just persevering, and in the end we managed to just yank these out. Next job was removing the wall in the front garden, and again, no real skill required here, just a little bit of hard work moving the stone, but you can see we were using the wheelbarrow, and my little lad Stanley come and give me a little hand with that. So once that's done, you can see how it looked. Both the bushes are gone, the wall's gone from the front, and the next day my brother came down to give me a hand, which is obviously always something I'm very grateful of, my brother coming to help. And you can see he's taking the turf up, and I'm just attacking the path here. Now I started with a little pneumatic drill there, but I quickly moved to the angle grinder to cut the tarmac here, and this really made the job a lot easier. You can see here I'm just making straight cuts down the tarmac. Then once this is done, I'm just cutting across, and that's creating little squares, and you'll see here my brother just comes in with the pickaxe and starts pulling these up. Really easy. Once that's done, there's just the step at the bottom to come out, and that was a big old lump of a concrete step which my brother just pulled out for me there. And then we moved on to me taking the edging out from the inside of the path there, and my brother's just continuing down, taking that turf up. So again, just like every part of this project really, there's nothing technically difficult here. It's just a case of rolling your sleeves up and putting in a little bit of elbow grease. So once that was done, we moved on to the path, and the path was a little bit more difficult and actually unexpected. I didn't realise it had around 150 mil of concrete under the tarmac, so we had to go and hire a breaker to remove this, but this made short work of it. I think the breaker cost me like 30 quid or 20 quid or something for the day, relatively cheap, and it really helped. Following this, the next day I moved outside again on my own. My brother was unable to help this day, he had some family commitments. So I just proceeded to dig the soil out. Now what I'm actually doing here is I'm digging to the correct depth. So I wanted to get down to around 200 to 210 millimeters, and that's going to give me room for the subbase, the screed layer and the grids. Once this was done, you can see how this is looking now. You can kind of see that depth on the edges there. And in fact, when we look down the path here, you can see that even clearer. It's around 200 mil. And we've got a nice shot from above as well, which again shows that this is starting to look even more like a driveway. So once this was done, there was only one other thing really to do before the subbase went down, and that was just to compress the ground. So I hired a whacker plate. Now I hired this for one whole week, and I can tell you that by the end of that week, this entire project was finished. So that gives you a bit of an idea of how long this driveway took to build as a DIY project. So this was pretty simple. We're just compressing the ground down, getting it ready for the subbase. Now, what you can see me doing now is just repairing the fence. So at the top, you will remember we took the wall out, and this left a big gap in the existing fence. So I just went onto the timber merchant while I was waiting for the subbase to come and just added a few extra pieces of timber in just to kind of make the end of that fence up. And this was very simple. I will put a more detailed video on the channel of the entire process, so do keep an eye out for that. But as you can see, quite straightforward here. And once these have been repaired, you can see I've added a little bit of stain there just to finish it off, and it looks pretty good with the existing fence, I think. You can also see the driveway here, and you can see that depth that I've gone to here. So this is going to give us plenty of room for that subbase, for our screed layer, and also the additional 40 mil that we're going to have with the grids themselves full of gravel. And here you can see that we are having the subbase delivered. So this was 8 jumbo bags that I had delivered of MOT Type 2. And you can see here I'm having them hang it over the driveway with the high-ab, and I'm just cutting the bottom of the bags. This just makes things a lot easier rather than having them all drop to the top of the drive and having to shovel them out of the bags into the barrier. It just would have added so much work. So if you do a job like this and you have the opportunity to cut the bags, I do highly recommend that. But again, this is just like very much of the rest of the project. It's not really complicated. It's just a case of hard work, rolling your sleeves up and just getting stuck in. Once we started to get this nice and even, then we can move on to using the whacker plate to compress this down. And you can see my brother doing this at the top of the drive, and then we're putting one of the grids in place. And really what we're doing here is we're checking the depth, because we want around 20 mil left on top of these grids. Now that's not going to be 20 mil that's left on top of the grids, that's 20 mil underneath, where we're going to be adding a screed layer to bring this up to the correct level. So we want it to be like 15, 20 mil down there, which is basically what we ended up with. So this worked out really, really well. And you can see it's just a case of running over with the whacker plate, getting this all nicely compacted and compressed down. And once that's done, we have a nice solid flat base for our grids to sit on. And then the next job is to add our weed membrane. So you may have seen people add weed membranes below the subbase, but on this occasion that's not required. We actually spoke with EcoGrid themselves, the people who are providing the grids, and they said that the only reason you would have a weed membrane under the subbase is if you had particularly soft soil. So in this case we had really nice firm soil, so the best, most common sense solution here was to put the weed membrane on top, and that way it provides a layer of protection against weeds, but also the screed layer that you can see being delivered now is going to be separated from the subbase to stop them mixing. So this that we're having delivered here is a 2 to 6 mil clean limestone, so it has no fines in it. And you can also see a few bags being taken back into the truck there because they made the wrong delivery the first time round. But thankfully they were able to bring that back and rectify that straight away for me. So before my brother arrived, I started on the pathway, and you can see me here just barrowing it down the path. I'm using a brush to roughly level it out, and then I'm using a piece of deck board here just to completely run over the top and make this perfectly flat and level. And that is the goal here. We want to get this around 15 to 20 mil on top of that membrane, and then we want to kind of even it out as best we can with the brushes and the shovels and rakes and whatever we were using. But then following that, we're going to use a piece of very straight timber, and you can see we're doing it on the driveway here, me and my brother, with a piece of 3x2, and we're just going to run it over the top. We're going to take away all the high spots, and then any low spots we're going to fill them with the excess gravel from underneath. And what this is going to do is it's going to create a completely flat surface for the grids to sit on. So had we gone straight on top of the subbase, there may have been some slight ups and downs. What this does is it completely levels and flattens that out. And you can see here we're just using the whacker plate to finish off and get that completely compressed. So at this point you can see we have a nice flat level surface, and this is going to be perfect for our grids to sit on top of. You can see as well, if you look at the edges there, we've got around 40 mil, which just makes it absolutely perfect to align with the tops of those grids. You can see a couple of the grids on the grass there, and I'm just going to show you them now on the back deck and give you a little bit of an explanation of how these work. So these are from a company called EcoGrid. You can see they're actually delivered in sheets here of 12 connected grids. So this means each sheet here is 1.3 by 1 meter. And you can see they've got those little holes and those little lugs on the side, the male and female parts, and that's how these connect together. So this is super simple to install. So the first job here was to align the path and the drive. Now, if we'd have just done the drive on its own first and then tried to connect to the path, we may have had issues because there's obviously those male and female parts that need aligning. So what I actually did was I put the first sheet on the path here, as you can see, and then I connected 2 sheets and aligned them up to make sure that the connecting parts, fit together properly. Following this, the installation process was unbelievably simple. You can see me and my brother now literally just carrying these sheets out, laying them next to each other, and all you do is just align the lugs with the holes, apply a little bit of pressure on the edge, and that is it. These things are connected together, and the male and female parts hold together really securely as well. So this entire drive from the bottom to the top probably took about 10 minutes. The only time I had to do any cuts here was at the top, and you can see I'm just installing these last 3 pieces, which just were cut with the jigsaw, nice and simple. And you can see me here doing a little bit of cutting, and this is for the path. The path itself was just shy of 1 meter wide, and these panels are 1 meter wide, so we just needed to take a little bit off the edge to allow these to fit. Following that, you can see how this looks from above, so it's looking pretty good. And I'll just give you a little tour of the gravel grids themselves once they're installed. So at this point we had a lot of people walking past and neighbours and stuff that were really impressed with this. They obviously look quite interesting if you've never seen them before, so we got a lot of compliments. and questions from people who were interested to know what the grids were and how they worked. But as you can see, it's really making this look like a driveway now. The only thing left to do now is to add the gravel. So I had 3 tons delivered. These came by pallet. You can see the first one was actually dropped on the drive itself. However, the guys really struggled to get the pallet truck back off, so we decided to drop the other 2 at the top and just shovel that into the wheelbarrow and barrow it across. This is very, very straightforward. It's pretty much exactly the same as all the rest of the job. We just shovel in and spread in aggregate about, really. That's really what this job has entailed. A lot of digging and a lot of moving materials about. So for this part, it's just a case of filling every single hole in the grids. And then once we've completely filled the grids, we're just going to run the whacker plate over it a few last times just to really compress and compact that gravel inside. We actually filled the whacker plate up with petrol and ran it until it ran out, because what we found was the more that we ran over with the whacker plate, the more the gravel compressed inside the grids until it got really nice and solid in there. And that's it. At this point, the drive is done. This is completely finished. You can see the finished product here. I've got to say that I am absolutely delighted with this. It was a lot easier than I thought. It was actually really affordable as well, so I'll show you the full price on screen right now. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this project, if you think this is a good solution. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video, guys.